So it would
Oh,
just,
so I
we'll
just
just amend
Pittsburgh
it.
Drive, which is a separate.
Yeah.
Just need to amend the one.
You just amend it.
Oh, yeah.
If you're- if that's what you want to do.
I do, I will.
Thank you, guys. I am. The time is 7:01, and we'll call to order City Council meeting for September 14th, 2015 in council chambers. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Keller? Here. Mr. DeGenova?
Here.
Mr. Brush?
Here.
Mr. Schaefer? Vice Mayor Hellinger?
Here.
Mayor Riggle?
Here. Item 2 is invocation, and tonight will be given by Jason Phelps, who is a youth pastor, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone will please stand.
Heavenly Father, I thank you for the great privilege to allow me to lead this group of leaders in our city in prayer tonight. God, you said in your word that we should pray first for those in authority. And Lord, I pray these men and women in this council to have wisdom from you and for you to bring to their minds knowledge to be able to solve the problems of our city. Heal the hearts and minds of disagreements they might have with one another on different issues that is brought before this council in both the past, in the present, and in the future. Help them come to, as best they can, into agreement on how best to handle the issues and problems of the city. And Lord, I'll finish this prayer from the prayer journal of the Founding Father and our first president of the United States, George Washington, quote, "Pardon my sins, Jesus Christ, to the saving of my soul in the day of the Lord Jesus," unquote. And I thank you too, Lord, like George Washington, for dying for my sins and rising from the dead and coming into my life 20 years ago, changing me from the inside out forever, never to be the same again. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you very much, Jason. Item 4 on the agenda is the approval of the motion summary of the regular meeting of City Council held August 24th, 2015, as recorded and transcribed.
I move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Brush, a second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Brush?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hellinger?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Item 5 is the consent agenda. Elaine, if you'll please read this in for the record.
Item A, acceptance of the motion summary for the Public Works Public Utilities Committee meeting held July 7th, 2015. Item B, acceptance of the motion summary for the Shade Tree Commission meeting held July 28th, 2015. Item C, acceptance of the motion summary for the Planning Commission meeting held August 5th, 2015. Item D, resolution number 15-46. A resolution authorizing the modification of certain traffic control signage to extend the no parking here to corner zone on the east side of Bruce Road to 150 feet south of Hills Miller Road. Item E, resolution number 15-47. A resolution authorizing the modification of certain traffic control signage to adjust the no parking here to corner zone on the west side of North Liberty Street to 65 feet south of Griswold Street and repealing a portion of resolution number 87-8, establishing the no parking zone on the west side of North Liberty Street south of Griswold Street. Item F, resolution number 15-48, a resolution authorizing the installation of a no parking anytime zone on the west side of Bruce Road from Hills Miller Road to 160 feet south of Tudor Drive. Item G, established September 28, 2015 at 7:30 p.m. as the date and time for public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 15-94, an ordinance approving a rezoning from R3 one-family residential district to B2 central business district with text limitations for the Delaware County Board of Commissioners for a new county courthouse located at 110 North Sandusky Street, just south of the Hayes Building on approximately 1.99 acres, and ordinance number 15-96, An ordinance approving a street vacation for Marshall Court right-of-way and right-of-way along the southeastern portion of the site for the Delaware County Board of Commissions new county courthouse located at 110 North Sandusky Street, just south of the Hayes Building, on approximately 1.99 acres in Zone B2, Central Business District with text limitations.
I move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Brush, second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Brush?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hellinger?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Item 6 is time set aside for letters, petitions, or any public comment on something that's not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward at this time? And if you'll have a seat at the podium there, and if you'll give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, council. My name is Carter Johnson. I reside at 86 West Lincoln Avenue. What I'm bringing to the council this evening is something that I've been pondering for some time, and saw an article online via the Gazette in regards to the Central Avenue Railroad underpass. I know that the trucks get fined. I don't know what that fine is. What I'm proposing to council is double it. Whatever it is, double it. The city keeps the first portion and does with as they currently do. The second half would be put into some sort of savings account, IRA, something that'll make money for the city. And enough trucks hit that bridge, the city's going to have the money without raising taxes or going to the state to make those improvements.
Okay, take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Okay,
I'm going to put my citizen hat on,
okay.
and there was
You have
a,
to go up there and sit.
there was an article in the Dispatch a couple days ago on, and I myself was contacted 3 times, and I've had several of my neighbors contacted, and it's the same situation, and I wanted the media forewarn the citizens of Delaware. And I did talk to Chief Pijanowski. I talked to Congressman T-Berry's office, and I talked to the IRS. And they said, if you can get any names or anything. The fellow inquired to me, get an obvious fictitious Steve Martin at Stanford, Virginia, and I got a phone number. And they said that phone number could be called, they could be using a phone number in Virginia that's in Africa or somewhere else. But he was a foreign, sounded me like an Indian. He called me 3 times, and the third time I finally picked up the phone and told him, what do you want? He said, you owe exactly what this fellow said. He works for the U.S. Treasury Department, and you owe X amount of dollars, and you're going to be subpoenaed. You have to send in such and such amount of money, and it's a big scam. And I told him I was an elected official, and I was turning him over to the Attorney General's office, and he abruptly hung up on me. So I called the number back, and I got a secretary, and she said, he's not available, leave a message, and I did. And I said, I reported him to the Attorney General in Ohio, which I did. But it is going on, and I just wanted to forewarn, if any of your constituents or any of you people get called, just hang up on them, they said. It is a big scam. But the Dispatch did put an article in. If you fellows want this, I can give it to you.
Thank you, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll move on to committee reports. Mr. Jones?
Tomorrow night is a Parks and Rec meeting here at 7 o'clock. Unfortunately, I won't be able to attend, but it's tomorrow night. That's all.
Thank you. Mrs. Keller? Nothing? Nothing. Are you going to do another meeting for planning? Or are you going to wait till the next?
Waiting for the next regular meeting.
Okay, just curious. Thank you. Mr. DeGenova?
I'm going to attend a meeting with the chamber on Thursday, a luncheon with the state of the schools superintendents. No update. Well, we're going to have an update from the developer or the general contractor on the Veterans Memorial. We wanted to put that in as item 8 on the agenda. Other than that, got a busy week.
Mr. Brush?
Thank you. The Finance Committee met on September 10th. We discussed a series of issues, including a review and possible consideration of an amendment to the city's financial management policies, which we're going to discuss at a future Finance Committee meeting in further detail. We discussed the acquisition of financial management software, which Finance Committee had previously recommended, and directed staff to go ahead and take the next step to that. So we'll probably be seeing a supplemental here at the council level sometime in the next couple of meetings. We also had some sort of preliminary discussion about the 2016 municipal budget, and we discussed the adoption and implementation of House Bill 5, which was the piece of legislation which I believe was passed in December of last year that deals with standardizing the municipal income tax collection throughout the state of Ohio. So part of that legislation requires us to establish a 3-member income tax appeals review board or something to that effect. And so we're currently looking into what we need to do to make sure we're complying with the Ohio Revised Code, and that we have that board in place going into 2016 when the law goes into effect. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
And that board cannot have a membership of council. It has to be other.
Yes, 2 members appointed by council and 1 member appointed by the city manager. The manager's appointee can be a city employee, but can't be the finance director. And the council appointees cannot be any current employee or public official for the city, nor anyone who's served in either of those capacities in the past 5 years.
All righty. Any questions for Mr. Brush?
Thank you.
Mr. Schaefer?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Holligan?
Nothing.
Okay. We'll move on to item 8, which our presentation, and the first one will be the Veterans Plaza update. So if you would like to come forward at this time. And for the record, I guess we're going to give name and address again.
I'm sorry.
For the record, we're going to need your name and address.
Okay. My name is Bill Morgan. I'm with 2K General Company. Address is 19 Gruber Street in Delaware. Is that good? Okay. Again, my name is Bill Morgan with 2K General Company. With me is Josh Helms with OHM Design Group. And your address, Josh? 7692 Ruby Gibbs.
Did you get that, Elaine?
That's understood.
Yes.
We're here to give an update and to show a short presentation on, obviously, the City of Delaware Memorial Plaza. Josh was the lead designer on that team that put together this design. 2K General will be doing the construction work along with OHM together as a team, and with the team of the Veterans Memorial team that you put together to do this. So anyway, real quickly, we want to go through an overview of what we're going to be doing in the next couple of months.
Yeah. And what I'm going to explain to you is just kind of an overview of the designs and the feelings and the thoughts that we put behind.
Can somebody pull the lights, Dan, lights down a little?
Josh,
I think we
can you
better
step
wait.
over here so you can grab the microphone? Switch places.
Okay. Oh, yeah, Josh is better talking.
Okay. I will try to talk as loud as I can here. As you can see, these are some of the local partners that, as we were doing the design, we wanted to make sure that we kind of teamed with and said, hey, what can you do for us? What can you do for the city in the design? These companies stepped up for us, and we wanted to acknowledge them. The project goals of the design, what we wanted to do is make sure that we commemorated the 12 wars that the U.S. has been in. The flexibility to remove and personalize papers, of course, incorporate the restored canon from another site, and then honor the plaza donors that's from the slide that you just saw. Keep it wrong. Some of the project goals, what we wanted to do is utilize, basically create something sustainable. We know that there's a lot of kids in the area with YMCA, with Park Home. We wanted to maintain the flow between the National Guard Training Center in the YMCA, and then just a turnkey little maintenance. And that was really what we started with. And then from that, what our ideals when we go into this design was to create something that will honor, reflect, and celebrate our heroes and their sacrifices. So the overall concept. You can see what we wanted to do is create certain areas in this park or in this memorial and give names to those areas to really create an identity. So you can see that there's a circle of remembrance, there's a walk of solitude. The bands that you see there are the ribbons of honor. There's stars of reflections, which commemorate the 12 wars. There's walls of gratitude, which kind of reinforces the ribbons. And then there's the people plaza in the middle for large gatherings. I went ahead and my little PowerPoint presentation. So just kind of focusing in on those individual elements, the circle of remembrance. Really what this is it's the hierarchy of the space. So that is the central focal element. So what we did was we created we commemorated the 5 divisions of service, and then we created an eternal flame sculpture. And we've elevated that space as well. The walk of solitude. This was designed to, we know that everybody's kind of in a different place, especially when they come to these memorials. And whether that's if you just got done serving or if you've lost a loved one that's serving. And so we wanted to create spaces that kind of reflected all those different levels of thought and kind of where you are, I guess, at that moment. And this walk of solitude is kind of getting you away from the people plaza. It's kind of letting you reflect on whatever you want to reflect on. And so it's a quiet space, it's a place where you can sit. There's certain inspirational quotes and things like that you can look at.
Mention to them that their flame's going to be handicap accessible too.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, the walk of solitude is going to be less than 5%, which you won't require a handrail. And it allows veterans or anybody really in a wheelchair that are handicapped get up to the circle of gratitude, that elevated plaza. The ribbons of honor. What we wanted to do here was really kind of say anybody that wants to donate or some of the pavers and things like that people want to remember the family members by, they can do that in this area. So the plan is to design it in a way that those pavers can be popped up at any point. And there's 12 by 12 and then 4 by 8 standard pavers that will go through these areas. The ribbons of honor that are spected there, you can see that really it's kind of flanking the stars of gratitude, stars of reflection, I'm sorry. The stars of reflection really commemorate, like I said before, the 12 wars that the U.S. has participated in. And it goes counterclockwise. So you can see the top right there is the first Revolutionary War, and it just circles around. There is an area to expand on that, which we wanted to make sure that we were kind of planning for the future as well. Here's kind of some elevations of what those will look like. It's going to be the stars are going to be stainless steel, and the plan is right now that those will be lit at night, and so you can really get that shape. And it's going to be pretty. It's going to be pretty.
What are the black circles? Is that something engraved on those? Or
That's a good point. The black circles are really placeholders at the moment. What we are planning on is each war will have its own kind of
some sort of image. Okay.
Yeah, and there will be a plaque.
Bronze plaque. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Bronze plaque.
And then what you can see there is the wars and the years of the war, and those are going to be stainless steel pin mounted letters. The walls of gratitude, what we wanted to do is really reinforce that flag element in the site and serve dual purposes. So what we wanted to do is create something that will kind of break up the People Plaza a little bit so it didn't feel so big and open and a little bit more intimate. And so what we did was we placed it on the site to do that, but also we wanted people to sit on them. And so we kind of created this wave type effect on the top. You can see there. Also on the walls, you can see kind of the square shapes. The thought is that the citizens of the city can donate photographs or letters or anything like that that is from their loved ones that mean a lot to them that they want to share in this space, and everyone can see and be on display. Some inspirational images.
That's a great idea.
Good. Those will be there'll be glass that we etch the glass or put an image behind the glass. They're not obviously just the letters, so it'll last for a long time. They are also interchangeable. You can pull them out, change them to something else as that goes on.
The People Plaza, this is kind of the unprogrammed space of the site. So this is the open space that we can put chairs out, and when there's large gatherings. Right now, it sits between 150 to 175 people. Comfortably. That's kind of a nice perspective of just getting a sense of the scale.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't know where this is, it's at the corner of where the Y and the National Guard meets. That's where we're looking at. Everybody's known this before, they've seen this, but we don't actually have it on there. So it's a nice place. There's 3 flag poles there now. We'll move those around a little bit, but that's the location.
Exactly. And you can see the existing, there's existing walks when we come into the site, and we kind of design around those, or we would try to incorporate those into the final design. In a nice perspective. So with all of the things going on, we know it's important at night too, and I think what we're going to really try to do is with the stars and with the uplighting on the focal element and some of the entry lighting, I think we're going to really create a showcase of that as well.
You can go back one slide. And talk a little bit about the Veterans Memorial Plaza there in the front. We've changed that. There will be four notifications there as far as the state of Ohio. Yeah. We're going to add 2. The county, the city.
Exactly. And then you can see, of course, the relocated cannon.
Yeah. And the cannon can be accessible too. We can remove it.
Yeah, they'll add to the pad so you can get it off because it weighs a tremendous amount. The lettering you see, Veterans Memorial Plaza lettering will be stainless steel, brushed stainless steel is one of these will last a very long time.
And the thought is that the material for the source of reflection and the plaza entry sign will be the same, which is a kind of a cast stone, granite looking stone, a dark stone.
So Josh, the meeting then, or any kind of ceremonial, if an event, Veterans Day or something, would be where those individuals are now, just chairs set up there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is the cannons being restored, will it be
It's done.
operational?
Hold on.
Well, some would say they,
The cannons, like the State House.
Look at Jack.
no,
Our insurance will not cover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they won't go boom.
no, the restorers would say, yes, we'd like to demonstrate that it does still work.
On our first event, we might have the Civil War cannon or something from the State House, but this cannon, no.
It's pointing towards the park.
Yeah.
And the monument that was out there by the cannon, where is that going to be placed?
World War I.
Yes.
I think it's kind of up in the air right now.
Yeah, we have it decided.
You know, there's a few areas that we could put it. I think we just need to talk a little bit more with the committee.
And
Probably.
just for the record, the bricks that were installed as far as the original Veterans Plaza at the point have been stored by the city. There's over 200 of those.
Right.
Those are going to be used as part of this project. So if a family gave a brick or bricks on behalf of somebody, they will be put here in the appropriate place. So that's all going to be relocated out here.
There are some that we don't know particularly what ward and what
Right.
they're in. We'll have an area that'll be and kind of a neutral area.
The memorial committee will help us figure out where they
Where they
want
want
to bricks, because we're really a little bit up in the air on that.
I had a
Anybody?
constituent call me last week, and they have 5 bricks, and they want the family to all stay together.
Okay.
So it's going to be
Yeah.
different.
I think they're going to use the area a little bit in the circle.
In the circle for that,
Yeah.
yeah, for a special one.
Yeah, especially if we cannot associate a war with a brick. I think
That'll go in the circle too, first, yeah.
And then as well, I think right now we're diving into what that pattern looks like and making sure that we got everything covered for the start on that.
And if you want to buy a brick, a small brick's $100 and the larger bricks are $200.
Beautiful.
Could you go back to a slide where we can see the aerial view of the entire plaza? Yeah, like that one would be great. So immediately to the right and to the bottom, what's in that area now? Is it just grass?
It's all grass.
Or is that
Yes.
paved?
Yes, right here and here is grass, yes. And then here are the existing walls coming into the site.
Okay.
And then what we wanted to do is, we wanted to kind of signify the history to the area by plantings. So this ban on use site kind of allows you to feel like you're in the site.
The reason I ask is that I wanted to make sure that there was adequate space on the periphery of the memorial for future additions. Presumably, we've not been in our last war, I would imagine.
There'll be number 13, they'll come on the left side.
Yeah, Josh actually decided to start here on this side with Revolutionary.
Yeah, okay,
This way.
okay.
There's just more room in that direction. So we don't hope that happens, but.
Sure. Well, I think this is a really excellent design, and I appreciate all the work that both of you and your respective firms have put into this. I think it's going to be a very good addition.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Target date's November 11th of this year, and we're working on the program.
Yeah, we're going to make every effort. Though there's a lot to this.
Weather provide, we're all dependent on the weather right now.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, me too.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, give this one back. I don't want to keep it, that's right. You keep it.
Somebody get the lights, please.
Thank you. And, what did you say?
No, just from that to charging station.
Yeah. And then item B, Carrie Overfield. And for the record, we'll also have to have your name and address for anyone who speaks tonight.
Carrie Overfield, 24 East Hospital Street.
Are you picking that up, Elaine?
I don't believe so.
Okay, you,
We gotta talk louder, else into the microphone, sorry.
It's 184 East Boston Street.
My name is Max Stevens Rich. My address is 1038 Bridgeway Circle, Columbus, Ohio.
Jimmy Smith, 5914 Pelham Drive, Parma, Ohio.
just for a little background, a similar presentation was made to the Parking and Safety Committee. I think it was back in May about this, and this is really a follow-up to that. There was some discussion at that committee about the interest in charging stations, perhaps. That's what's being talked about tonight. And the recommendation was to bring it back to the full council to have the presentation done and get some feedback and direction.
You can sit at the table and use your clicker if you want. They will be able to hear you with your microphone. You're
That'd be better
real
for you?
soft
Yeah.
spoken, yes.
I don't know if anybody would say that.
Well, I'm saying that.
Do you want to join us since you're next? So I see some familiar faces. I've been gone for the last 7 years. We've moved away and are happy to be back with a new company, which is Renergy, and it is a renewable energy company. We have 2 facilities that currently you guys are probably a little bit familiar with. We're anaerobic digestion facilities, and we do process the city's biosolids at this time. And our 2 facilities, one is in Cardington and one is in Fairborn. And what we do is process waste and turn it into energy. And our main commitment is for the environment, reducing overall carbon footprints for our partners and for the communities around us. I've been doing work with Renergy for the last year from afar. My husband has actually been commuting for the last year and a half, and he's COO of Renergy. And for me, growing up in the city, and obviously my family was business owner downtown, so I grew up downtown. And my kids lived here, and when we started talking about what we could do and looking at, okay, what's going on in the city? How's the progression with sustainability? And especially in living out west, it's very progressive. And you notice everywhere you go, there's electric vehicle charging stations, there's solar panels everywhere, there's CNG stations. And when we came here and started doing all of the work in the Midwest, one of our big goals is to try and help the communities around us to be progressive as well. And naturally, we wanted to start in Delaware because it's Delaware. But the first thing that did come to mind, although we are processing the waste, which is great, so that's the first step in it, is looking towards goal for sustainability. And as you look around the city, there isn't a whole lot that says, I understand there's some initiatives with recycling. And something that came to mind for us is a great thing that we could do to give back would be to put in an electric vehicle charging station. Because if you don't have an electric vehicle charging station, then you aren't going to get people driving electric vehicles that are in Powell and surrounding areas who now appear to be coming. Like, I couldn't believe it when I see we now close the roads for First Friday. It's pretty crazy. But to see all those people, and when we're down in Columbus, people come to Delaware now. It's a destination spot, and there really isn't anywhere to charge your vehicles if you have that. And the city would really, it's a great way to, I'm not even doing this. It's a great way to show that you're progressive toward the future and to show other people that you're really concerned about helping the environment. When we looked around, I'm going to show you where we're. These are the spaces. We're actually right across the street. So we looked at the places behind the BP station right across the street. Reason being is you need something for high visibility because you have to kind of get the word out. It's something that the city would want to, as we try and reduce carbon, your carbon offset, you want to let people know all about it. So you want it in some place where they can start to be inquisitive about it. There's a lot of fun things that other cities have done, and I think that just from growing up here, I know there's a lot of cool things that you could do to the space, because oftentimes you can paint the spaces, you can do community outreach with that. So whether it's the Arts Castle or the local schools, or you have a contest, or you get business owners, there's some really cool things. And while you're doing stuff with the actual spaces, that they'll come to understand what it is everyone's trying to do. It was brought to my attention that it would be, we didn't think much of it. It's like, okay, let's put this in. This will be great for the city. Then it's like, okay, parking's a problem. So I'm sure that everybody on your mind is, wait, you're going to take a parking space or 2 parking spaces, because we'd like to take 2 parking spaces because the charger is dual. And we did a lot of thought on just a couple of ideas for what we could do for the second space. I know that there are a lot of hybrid vehicles, any alternative fueling. It is up to the city. While we'll pay for the installation and the maintenance and everything that goes along with the charging station, it will be up to the city to decide whether you want to meter it. You can charge people for the electric. You can provide a free space, but you could designate one of those spots as for hybrid or alternative fuel vehicles to ensure that there's always going to be somebody in them. Because the fact of the matter is it is going to take a little bit time, and a little bit of time to get everybody knowing about it. And depending on who has EV electric vehicles. So it's a long-term play on letting everybody know that you guys are at the forefront of doing something in the community to make it a little bit more green. I'll let Matt take over. Go, you can introduce yourself.
So once again, my name is Matt Stevens-Rich. I work for Clean Fuels Ohio, which is a statewide nonprofit organization that works in alternative fuel, vehicle fuel. So we're fuel and technology neutral. We actually linked up with Renergy about a year or two ago, working on compressed natural gas. The methane that they produce through their anaerobic digesters can in turn be used as a vehicle fuel. And then also, in turn, working with Ohio EV Solutions, Jimmy, who will introduce himself as well, working on charger deployment as well. Just a quick background to Clean Fuels Ohio in terms of electric vehicle charging. The last 5 years, we were very active on Recovery Act funding and working with cities on deploying charger stations as well. In that case, Bowling Green and BGSU, City of Akron, Dayton, Columbus, and also Tip City, they all were active in making a move on trying to get electric vehicle chargers. A lot of the cities shared the same goal of just trying to be more progressive, help achieve some of their green goals as a city, and being able to have those chargers there. And in turn, they have seen, while right at the initial start, utilization was a little bit low, they have seen over time that the communities immediately have been able to know that the chargers are there, as well as begin using them for their charging as well. And in terms of Ohio overall, it's not going to be the first state that jumps out to your mind for electric vehicles. Oftentimes, you'll think of more major metropolitan areas or whatnot, but actually very much in that light, the Department of Energy released a report end of last year looking at markets for alternative fuels. And Ohio is actually a really popular market for both CNG, compressed natural gas, and propane, but also was deemed a healthy market for electric vehicles. And a lot of that just plays into, there are a lot of metropolitan areas. Delaware and Columbus, for instance, is an immediate commuter area where you have a lot of vehicle traffic flowing through. So on this slide, we're just quoting some of those statistics, projected trajectories for vehicle growth and ownership. And with that, I will give it over to Jimmy Smith.
Thank you. I'll just stand and talk. I'm not sure about the slide either. But for my portion of it, I kind of wanted to show you guys what a charging station is like and how these are kind of used and the simplicity of it. So I went ahead and just brought along one of my charging stations. Give me a lovely background of it. And this is kind of what they look like, and not always exactly about the same height with your table right here. So with charging stations, a driver wants to be able to use these. So the first thing, I am an EV driver, that I would do is I pull up my smartphone and I'm looking at the app. I pull up a ChargePoint app and I'm able to see this station in Delaware, Ohio. And I click on it, I can look at a picture, I know where it's located on that map they showed us before, and I can use the in-app navigation to drive straight to Delaware. So from there, I'm pulling up to the charging station. And I have my ChargePoint app, or my ChargePoint card. All electric vehicles on the market that are brand new will come with one of these in the box. So I merely tap it on there, it'll authorize, or go click. That means I'm good to go. This represents my car, plug in my car. Sorry, guys. I look straight at it when I'm doing it. I don't know if it's inside. So I charge it up and now it's working. I can go along my day and visit your restaurants. Is the reason I came here. Using your shops. Interested in that little brewery shop across the way. And then the app will tell me that my car is done charging, so I come back, unplug my car, and plug it back into the station. Here it's letting me know that I charged for 19 seconds. I didn't use a lot of kilowatt hours, but it gives me all that information as well as it will send it to my email and text message. So, really in a nutshell, charging and the ability to have charging is it will put you on to the EV map. EV drivers know where the charging stations are at, and we want to be in that field for their visibility. So, thank you.
Questions, come on.
So is the business model then that if you use a kilowatt hour charging your car, then you get billed for that?
That would be, it's my understanding, that would be a city decision, correct? I mean,
That is, I mean, however you guys would like to do it. If you want to retain it through those meters outside, this can do it for you and then provide it back into your account, whatever one you would designate. But the options are pretty widespread.
And jump in as well with what some other cities have
Yeah.
been doing. A majority of cities are actually doing it as a free of charge charging operation. A part of the rationale is it's actually the cost per kilowatt hour is relatively low, especially considering a lot of electric vehicle owners are using it as a top-up, stopping by for half an hour, just something to give your battery a little bit more juice to get home. We're not talking totally dead battery all the way back up to full, but just more a top-up.
So let's assume for a minute that you were plugged in for about a half hour. About how much electricity would that? I know it's going to depend on the car and everything, but let's assume that you have a Nissan Leaf and your battery is at 50% and you plug it in for a half hour and get it up to 65%. I mean, what kind of a typical cost would that represent?
I don't know, Jimmy, if you have
I mean,
that
if
answer
it's,
up your sleeve, but
or if you can
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
us, like, for another city.
So-
I guess basically what I'm getting at is if we're looking at subsidizing this, is that like $50 a month or $500 a month? Some approximate figure like that would be helpful.
Right. If you had someone who showed up every day and were charging on this for like 2 hours, you're looking at your actual cost, assuming you get 12 cents a kilowatt hour, you're looking at 50 cents a day or something. That's if someone comes every single day, 30 days a month and charging on it.
Okay.
Yeah, $15 a month.
You made a statement that you parked yours there, you plugged it in, and you went to eat.
I did. Yeah.
Can someone else, Bad Boy Peck, come and unplug yours and plug it into his?
Some of the cars have features that you can't pull them on, but other ones that do, I will be notified via the station that my car has been
Somebody-
of some sort of charge.
Okay.
So, yes.
Will these work on golf carts?
Very big go kart.
Is there any way of knowing utilization in terms of, do you know electric car owners per county? Is there some way of knowing, for instance, what the, initially, obviously?
No, I don't. I'm still driving a Ford Focus, which I intend to run to 300,000. And then I'll get.
We
No.
have CNG vehicles.
Okay.
It's been a CNG fueling station. We're adding electric to that. And the issue that we are having, one of it is for selfish reasons, when I think about is we can't get here from Columbus. We don't have any place to charge to get back because our youngest is about to get a vehicle too.
Oh, okay.
And there isn't if she wants to come to Delaware. And it's kind of like, well, what do other people do for that? So we're on CNG and we're converting as soon as we figure out what the, if there's going to be a station in the area, then Renergy company vehicles will have dual, we'll have CNG, and then we're going to have a couple that just.
Okay.
I have a Nissan Leaf.
Pardon?
I have a Nissan Leaf. It's all electric battery.
Right.
But I didn't get to drive it here today. No
Why,
charge.
because you couldn't plug it in?
Right.
So can you only, I mean, you can plug them in at home though, right?
Right.
So just, 110, what do you plug them in at home?
So all those charging stations, level 2 charging is what we're calling here is your universal standard, and it's a 240, 40 amp line. So all cars that are electric, plug-in electric vehicles are able to charge off of this port. It's a universal standard for the industry. So I do charge at home, and that's what I do, 80, 90% of my charging, but if I have the ability to charge when I'm out, I do, and I'll plug in when I'm there. There's a Walmart out by me that I go to, there's, I know them all. There's a university that's near some shopping areas that I'll use as well. And if there was one here, I would have attempted to do the same.
How many miles can you go on a charge?
For mine, it's one of, there's more in the market, so that represents a range, but I'm about 80 miles per range of charge.
And that's
So you
really,
could go from Columbus here and back?
I cannot, no.
No?
Not now.
And-
I'm working on it.
and that's dependent on the size of the battery on board as well. The Tesla Model S, for instance, has a much larger battery, and does go a larger range, whereas the Chevrolet Volt, it actually only has 30 miles of all electric on board, and then it's a plug-in hybrid, so it also has a gasoline generator, which will kick in after
It's
that.
in that.
Other questions?
I don't have any questions. I just have a couple of comments. That's my train of thought all of a sudden. No, it's back. I had initial conversations with senior managers with this company, and I knew the conversation would be about the parking spaces. I think when we look at the parking spaces, the parking spaces that were chosen, I think, are good parking spaces. It's not like these are the spaces that are right downtown where they're turning over, every 15, 20 minutes. But I think overall, my opinion, I support this so much, is I think you have to think about this as a big picture thing. I think if we can get on the map as a community that supports this type of business, or this type of initiative, I think that what follows that is just tremendous support from the state and from the federal government for possible grants and opportunities to do more things that we want to do, more things that we talk about. I mean, we got so much going on. Like we want to do the river and the communities and things we're trying to grow. And I think this fits a perfect synergy for what we're trying to do, in my opinion. So I ask for your support on this. I think big picture, long term, this is a great move.
You more or less say it's in the pioneering stages.
Well, someone's got to start it, and I can't think of a better community to pioneer this. I mean, look, Central Ohio, the community, it's just perfect, in my opinion.
I support it 100%.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe the way we want to go with this is have this come back to parking and safety to make a formal recommendation. We're probably going to we have to change some ordinances, designate those parking spots for rechargeable vehicles only. So my suggestion would be that parking and safety pick this back up at our next meeting and come back to council with a recommendation.
Darren, just from a procurement standpoint, what would your advice be in terms of this?
I would probably recommend, since you're obviously doesn't sound like we'd be exchanging money, but we're exchanging basically city property parking spaces. I would recommend doing a request for proposals just to make sure that, no offense to y'all, I'm sure you're great, but there's somebody else out there. We don't want them to be able to say, well, I would have given you $10,000 for the opportunity to put that in there if you only would have given me a chance. So I think you do a request for proposals that can be scored, pick the best one, and doesn't have to be based on price. It can be based on the best overall proposal. And that way we make sure everyone's treated fairly, especially if we're giving up a parking spot, has some value to it. And we can work on that. We don't need it's like council action to do that. We can do the proposal and then designate the spots to whoever is ultimately selected.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Just from my experience, my mother owns a Chevy Volt. I visited her in California last time, and I pulled up to a community center, and there was the charging station, and you're right, it's all over, and I think it is the folks with the apps. If we can get out, if we can be one of those communities with the charging station, we'll see over time. If you know that you can go to Delaware, and maybe there'll be a point where it's not enough, but I think initially it would be. So, yeah.
I have a question for them.
Go ahead.
From a city perspective, can the council see the usage of this charging station once it's put in? Where they can see the return on investment parking spaces.
Yes, the station itself is based on the cloud and reports back all the information. It'll tell you the kilowatt hours used. If you have any charging based on it, it'll tell you the amount of charge that's been there, the number of sessions, as well as greenhouse gases that are also.
But city leadership can see that.
If we set it up there and all this package is going to them to manage it, they have all that access.
Okay, because it doesn't seem worth it if council can't see it, make a decision, yay, nay, we need more, we need different locations, whatever.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest advantages, is knowing when you need to expand, because it's definitely been, yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much. Very informative.
Thanks.
And they've already been parking, I heard? Okay.
And we might get started with the RFP process now instead of waiting for, I mean,
When is our next meeting for parking safety?
next meeting, Bruce, parking and safety?
October. yeah,
October.
October.
I mean, we can at least
Yeah, we have the stop
put a draft together. You can take a look at it, so we're not wasting time.
Yeah, we could maybe have that draft ready at the meeting and they
Yeah.
can look at that.
I think that makes sense. Yes, thanks a lot.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you this evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Nothing, I was just gonna.
Item 9 is the second reading of Resolution 15-43. If the clerk would please read this in the record.
Resolution number 15-43, a resolution naming the street where Veterans Park and the Community Center, YMCA, are located as Veterans Drive.
You want me to start?
Sure.
We had a lot of conversation. I belong to a lot of veterans organizations, and there was some discussion of naming this after an individual. And most of us have agreed, and when we did the Veterans Memorial Park, we are not naming any individuals out there. And so we would rather have Veterans Park, that drive, either called Veterans Drive, Veterans Park Drive, Veterans Memorial Drive, and not naming after any one individual. And so those are the couple I'd recommend Veterans Drive, but it's up to the council.
I'm good with Veterans Drive. What about the rest of you?
That's great.
Veterans Drive.
Sure, is that what's currently in the,
I think that's.
yeah, that's
Veterans
what
Park.
That's what it says right now.
Sure.
So I move it,
Well, real quick, and this really has nothing to do with what you're going to propose, but why we're on the subject, and I meant to ask that, who's going to be in charge of landscape, of keeping the landscape clean out at the plaza? Is it the YMCA, or is it going to be the?
It'll probably be a joint between the city, the Y, and the Guard. And we'll have to figure out how that works,
Okay.
Chris, but I was thinking of that same
Well, that's a lot
thing
of
when I looked at the
landscaping and-
extensive,
Yeah.
I know it's low maintenance, but
and all the organizations.
there's a lot of,
I'm involved in, the veteran, Vietnam veterans, and VFW, the American Legion, all have said they would make sure.
Okay, because Councilwoman Keller kind of whispered to me that that's a lot of landscaping. and It's a lot of weeds to grow through bricks and, and.
Yeah, we're kind of eliminating some of the stuff too.
Okay.
We kind of mixed a lot of that.
Just want to make sure it stays
Beautiful.
sitting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
someplace
otherwise-
that it is, and not
Annuals and that
ever
will all
look.
be taken care of by
Great.
those organizations.
Sorry to interrupt your
That's
motion,
okay.
Jeff.
No, one other thing you didn't mention on that is there'll be a podium on that where the,
I wondered that too.
and it'll be.
A permanent podium
It'll
that's,
be a
okay.
we unplug it, take it in, and take it
Oh,
out
okay.
for organizations.
Okay, so did you make a motion?
I make a motion to suspend rules requiring 3 readings on 1543.
I think you just need to,
just a resolution.
Just
Just
a
resolution.
Okay, resolution. For adoption of resolution 1543 as Veterans Drive.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. DeGenova, a second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Brush?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hellinger?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 10 is the second reading of Resolution 15-45. The clerk will please read this into the record.
Resolution number 15-45, a resolution adopting the 2016 through 2020 5-year capital improvement program.
Well, I think with the presentations, I don't think our time permits
Yeah.
tonight.
We have a meeting on October.
We have October 3rd, 5th, I don't know, we keep seeing 3rd. October 5th, which is 3 Mondays from now, we're going to have a work session to go over the CIP. What time would you like that work session to begin?
That's my next question.
6 o'clock, we can do it.
I want to make sure everybody can look at their,
I know, it's Kent that I'm worried about. You're good?
6 o'clock.
6, and probably we,
Could I request, as I have in the past, if we get paper copies, that we can.
yeah, we sent it out. We can make it, I know we did to
I got a
Joe,
copy of it.
whoever wants.
I would love one.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just hard to look at. it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get it bound and, yes.
Because it's in here at 6:30, we're gonna make it 6. You'll send out a new.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that was just a placeholder, but if
Right.
6 is the preference, then we'll make it 6.
I think since we had the original one sent out, we made some changes, so.
Yeah.
I need an update.
Yeah.
Okay. Item 11 is the second reading of ordinance 15-88. If the clerk will please read this to the record.
Ordinance number 15-88, an ordinance amending ordinance number 15-57, establishing the pay and benefits for various part-time and intermittent and seasonal employees of the city of Delaware.
Mr. Shulman.
I'll take this, and if Chief Donahue would indulge me and maybe come up in case they have any questions, but we discussed this at the last meeting. Jessica Fellows here giving you the details, but essentially this is minor tweaks to our part-time, permanent part-time pay ordinance. The part-time firefighters have always been in that ordinance, but the major change of this is to reflect the fact that the part-time firefighters are filling in on a 24-hour shift, so they fall into a different FLSA category than the rest of us folks who work 40 hours. So the way their potential overtime is calculated is different. Chief, did you have anything to add there?
No, and also because of part-time with the affordable health care, their maximum amount of hours that they can work is 1,500 hours as well.
Okay. Any questions? Do we?
I move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings of ordinance 15-88.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Brush, a second by Mrs. Keller. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Brush?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hellinger?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move to enact ordinance 15-88.
Second. Sorry.
I have a motion by Mr. Brush, a second by Mr. Halligan. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Brush?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hellinger?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Item 12, is second reading of ordinance 15-89. If the clerk will please read this into the record.
Ordinance number 15-89, an ordinance supplementing the 2015 appropriations ordinance to establish funding for material upgrades at the CSX rail crossings of London Road and Pennsylvania Avenue, and authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements with CSX as required and declaring an emergency. Emergency clause, that this ordinance is hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary to provide for the public peace, safety, health, and welfare of the city, and for the further reason to provide for the timely review of development plans and for the continued utilization of construction inspection services, and as such will be in full force and effect immediately upon its passage.
Good evening, Mr. Farino.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of council, I can just update you from last presentation. You asked a question regarding when the last time the improvements were made at the crossings. That was 2009. I think I provided that both in the updated fact sheet as well as emailed you formally. Also, we discussed this at the Public Works Committee briefly and did receive a recommendation, again, in support of the efforts here. And lastly, I did add, there's a question about prioritization. I added my prioritization within the information provided tonight, that if we wanted to limit the amount of funds we spend in upgrading crossing, my prioritization would be that we address the London Road crossing most importantly, if we wanted to reduce the amounts or limit the work to that. And I can answer any additional questions tonight.
For my part, I think that this makes a lot of sense at London Road. I don't think it's necessary at Pennsylvania. I've driven both since our last council meeting, and it would be nice to do Pennsylvania as well, but this is coming out of our general fund, and I don't know that that's the highest priority. So if that's generally what other people are thinking as well, I can make the necessary.
I drove them both, and I really think Pennsylvania is really rough. And with the school
Well,
being right
it'll still be.
It'll be taken care of by the railroad with wood.
Right,
Right.
it's like it lasts a whole lot longer than.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the way I look at it, the current method of making these improvements, if we didn't pass this legislation for Pennsylvania, it doesn't last that long, but we're not on the hook to pay for it, and we're not on the hook to pay for long-term maintenance of it. It's up to the railroad to do that.
That's correct.
And I think that at London Road, with the amount of truck traffic there and the fact that it's right by the industrial park, I think that that's more of a compelling place to put it. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, I think the change, the difference in elevation between the rail crossing and the surrounding road is pretty minimal at London Road.
That's correct.
And at Pennsylvania, it's a pretty significant, so it's not like you can really go that fast over that intersection anyway. I mean, I don't feel that strongly about it, I guess, but it's, I don't know that it's the best use of 40 grand when we have all these other capital needs that we might want to invest in.
Anybody else want to weigh
Yeah,
in?
just, Bill, living close to that Pennsylvania crossing and driving it pretty much every day, I could have sworn that there was work done on that since 2009, like maybe 2012.
The last major upgrade in terms of replacing or modifying rail elevations and replacing the pavement was 2009. Doesn't mean there was not other CSX work in the area adjustments, but not the systematic improvement of the grade crossings.
Okay. Yeah, because I know they had it closed for 1, 2, maybe 3 days here, I want to say within the last 2 or 3 years. I just don't recall what it was, but they did have that.
CSX will close crossings for other than pavement work as well, in terms of the rail. In fact, they had if I do recall, they had a rail repair, a cracked rail in the area in that time frame that had to be repaired as well. And that could be what we're recalling.
Okay. Would the, follow-on question, would the, if we went ahead with the upgraded crossing, would that crossing upgrade between the rails, would that then also extend out beyond where the pedestrian walk is? Right now they have the pedestrian, there's a sidewalk there, and we have the pedestrian crossing gates there at Pennsylvania. Would that improved crossing extend into that?
It could, if we have a say concrete sidewalk area that goes through that area, we can have the rubber panels put as far out as we want. They're segmental, so you can go as far past the travel lanes as we want to or need to. And if we were participating, I think we'd ask CSX to extend them out in our walking paths as well at any crossing.
Because that's always a concern. I know I walk my dog down through there, and kids walk back and forth there, and it's not real even necessarily there. So it'd be my biggest concern.
Well, what's the other thoughts on Pennsylvania? Yay or nay?
For me, I think Mr. Brush made a pretty good point, just because of you're not going really fast over there anyhow. So I think he's kind of maybe hit that dead on for Pennsylvania, in my opinion.
I don't feel super strongly either way.
Okay.
I mean, I guess the other thing I'd mention is that if we're looking at doing Pennsylvania meeting upgrade, to be redone basically every 5 or 6 years by the railroad anyway, this won't be our last opportunity to make this kind of improvement. So,
Okay.
all right. Well, I will move that we amend Ordinance 1589 as follows, such that the Description removes the words "and Pennsylvania Avenue," and such that section 1 replaces the general fund appropriation of $80,000 with an appropriation of $40,000, and the transfer to the SMR fund from $80,000 to $40,000, and such that section 2, am I going too fast, Elaine?
I'm going as quick as I can.
Okay. And such that section 2 changes the appropriation from the SMR funds from 80 to 40,000, the appropriation from professional services from 50,000 to 25,000, and the appropriation from operating supply from 30,000 to 15,000.
Second.
We may need to give the clerk a few minutes to catch
Basically
up.
cut all the numbers in half.
I can always read it.
Okay.
Mr. DeGenova, was that?
Second.
And I would just have a question on that, though. Knowing that London has is multiple tracks and Pennsylvania's
Is it
a
proportional?
single track. Yeah, is that really, is it a
Is that the
1-to-1 or is it a 2-to-1 type cost?
1-to-1 now.
Because-
These are the preliminary costs given to us, and we established the amounts we believe substantial enough to cover that cost.
So would the half let you do the
So we'll
one
half
that's still
cover
in?
London?
Question is, I mean, if we need what we need, and what we don't want to do is have to come back.
I mean, we could just
if
leave the appropriations
Yeah,
in
I
there
would-
as written.
I would just write out
Most of it.
Write out Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Allocate out. what you
I
need.
will withdraw my motion and instead move that we amend ordinance 15-89 to remove any reference to Pennsylvania Avenue.
That's fine.
Second.
That's better.
Okay. Roll call on the amended.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Sh-
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ellinger?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings of ordinance 15-89.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Brush, second by Mr. DeGenova. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova? Mr. Brush?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hellinger?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move to enact the emergency clause.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Brush, second by Mr. DeGenova. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Brush?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hellinger?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move to enact ordinance 15-89 as amended.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Brush, second by Mr. DeGenova. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Brush?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hellinger?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. Could we have a brief recess?
We sure can. I was looking at the clock, I'm like, wait a minute.
If I was on, he was going to request a recess. I couldn't wait.
Yeah, I'll entertain.